You'll never amount to anything, just give up. What would you do if someone said that to you while your bank account quietly held $5 million? Well, that's what my sister said loud enough for every cousin at the birthday table to snicker under their breath, loud enough for my parents to lower their eyes and pretend it was a joke. My aunt leaned in, whispering, "By the way, my company's hiring." My uncle smirked. The room pulsed with their silence, waiting for me to break. I didn't. I pressed my hands together under the table, felt my nails dig into my skin, and made a vow. They thought I had nothing. What none of them knew was that one day, with a single swipe on my phone, I would make their laughter stop. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 29, the forgotten child, as some relatives like to joke when they think I can't hear. I used to sit in this very dining room staring at the walls covered with Sophia's trophies and framed college degrees. Every photo seemed to tell the same story. She was the star and I was the shadow. Our parents never meant to be cruel, but their silence carried weight. Whenever Sophia bragged about her promotion or her new condo, Mom would beam with pride. Dad would raise his glass. When I mentioned my work freelance consulting, long hours, late nights, they nodded politely, then changed the subject. To them, real success was something you could brag about at church on Sunday. And since I kept mine quiet, they assumed it didn't exist. I remember one Thanksgiving especially clear. The smell of cinnamon rolls filled the kitchen plates, piled high with turkey and mashed potatoes. My mother leaned across the table, glass in hand, and toasted Sophia, "To the child who never lets us down." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. My cousins clapped. My aunt whispered something smug, and I smiled like it didn't sting. But inside, I memorized every word. What they never noticed was what happened after those dinners when I drove home alone. I would park in front of my tiny apartment, the air conditioner rattling through the vents, and open my laptop. While they slept, I studied markets, built portfolios, tested strategies, and made mistakes that cost me every dollar I had. I ate instant noodles for weeks, pawned jewelry I once loved, and sat awake at dawn wondering if I'd chosen the wrong path. But I didn't quit. Years stacked up. Quiet years. Years when family believed Sophia had it all and I was barely scraping by. They didn't see the contracts slowly piling up, the late-night calls with clients overseas, the spreadsheets that glowed on my screen until my eyes blurred. They didn't see the moment the numbers finally tipped, when red turned to green and the account balance grew beyond anything I had imagined. So I let them laugh. I let them whisper. I let Sophia deliver her lines at every family gathering, each one sharper than the last. I stayed silent, because silence was my cover, my armor. And as I sat at that birthday table, nails biting into my palms, I thought of every sleepless night, every dollar earned, every plan no one knew about. They thought I was nothing. But the truth was already sitting in my pocket, locked behind one simple swipe on my phone. It wasn't just one birthday dinner. The tension had been simmering for years like a pot left too long on the stove. Every family event was another chance for Sophia to jab at me. She did it with a smile, like cruelty was her love language. At Christmas, she handed me a card with a $20 bill tucked inside and said, "For your little projects." Everyone laughed. I smiled, tucked it into my purse, and excused myself to the kitchen before my hands started to shake. At Easter brunch, she clinked her mimosa glass and announced to the whole table, "Emily doesn't believe in real jobs. She's still freelancing." The word dripped with pity, and the room echoed with polite chuckles. My father cleared his throat. My mother adjusted her napkin. No one defended me. I didn't bother to defend myself either. Not yet. Because here's the truth I was tired of fighting on their stage. My war was waged in silence, in spreadsheets, in the late nights when I built what no one thought I could build. But silence has a cost. Each jab, each whisper, each smug glance pressed heavier on my chest. The turning point came one humid July evening when Sophia's company threw a party at a rooftop bar. Somehow, I ended up on the guest list, probably because my parents begged her to include me. I stood there in a thrift store dress while everyone else glittered in cocktail attire. The skyline stretched behind us, glittering perfect. And then Sophia did what Sophia always does. She raised her glass. To family, she said, eyes locked on me. And to those of us who actually make something of ourselves, the laughter this time wasn't quiet. It was loud, raw, full-throated. I caught my reflection in the tall glass windows alone, out of place, painted as the failure once again. For the first time, my silence felt like a cage. I left early heels in my hand, sweat sticking to the back of my dress. On the subway ride home, my phone buzzed with client messages, numbers, updates. I scrolled through contracts worth more than the annual salaries of half the people laughing at me. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't just surviving, I was ahead, way ahead. That night, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop, stared at the glowing green numbers in my account, and made a decision. I wouldn't keep hiding. They thought my silence meant defeat, but silence can also be strategy. The next time Sophia tried to humiliate me, I wouldn't just stand there. I would let the truth speak for me with one undeniable, unarguable swipe. The fallout from that rooftop party clung to me like cigarette smoke. My mother called the next morning, her voice syrupy, sweet, but edged with disappointment. "Emily, you should try to be more like your sister. People admire her, you know. My father didn't even call. He just sent me a link to a job posting at his friend's accounting firm. A subtle nudge. Another reminder that in their eyes I hadn't arrived anywhere worth celebrating. I said nothing. I let them believe I was still floundering, still barely getting by. The truth burned inside me, almost unbearable. But I knew something they didn't. When pride blinds people, you don't argue, you wait. That night, I drove back to my apartment, unlocked the door, and sank into my chair. My computer hummed as the screen lit up with rows of numbers, graphs, and charts. Contracts signed, deposits cleared. My account balance blinked at me, 5073411182. I stared at the number until my chest loosened. That was no accident. That was years of sweat, sacrifice, and silence. But here's the thing about silence, it can crush you or it can sharpen you. I chose the second. I started digging through old folders, contracts, even family records. I found emails Sophia had sent me years ago, mocking me for throwing my life away. I reread texts from my father telling me I was too stubborn to last without a paycheck. Each one of those messages felt like kindling, dry and ready to catch fire. Then the collapse began, not mine, but theirs. A client of Sophia's company reached out to me privately. They'd heard of my firm through a referral and wanted my expertise. Their contract, worth more than Sophia's yearly salary. I signed it quietly. 2 weeks later, another came in, and another. I realized something. While Sophia had been busy polishing her image, I had been building something solid. My foundation was unshakable, hers paper thin. At the same time, my grandmother, who had always been kind to me, confided over tea that she worried about the family's future. She whispered that Sophia and my parents had been dipping into her savings, convincing her it was for the good of the family. My stomach turned. That was more than humiliation. That was theft. I promised her right then that I would not let it stand. From that day forward, my silence wasn't passive anymore. It was deliberate. I contacted a lawyer, laid out every document, every bank statement, every detail of my own earnings, and every whisper of what they'd done to Grandma. He listened, then leaned back and said, "When the time comes, you'll have everything you need." And that was it, the moment I shifted. No more being the quiet shadow. No more letting their words define me. The day they laughed at me across the birthday table was the day I realized the next laugh would be mine. The night everything broke open was supposed to be a celebration. My parents called it a family dinner, but everyone knew it was really another stage for Sophia. Her promotion, Dad's retirement, the perfect family on display. The dining room glowed under the chandelier. White tablecloth wine glasses lined like soldiers. A cake with Sophia's name piped in perfect script. I walked in quiet as always and felt a dozen pairs of eyes measure me. "Brave of you to come. Sophia said with a smile sharp enough to cut. Her lipstick caught the light like polished armor. Dad clapped my back. Maybe tonight you'll hear how real success sounds. I sat down without answering. The air smelled of roast beef and expensive perfume. My aunt leaned over. By the way, my company's still hiring, she whispered as if humiliation could pass for kindness. The meal rolled on clinking forks, bursts of laughter my name barely mentioned. I kept my hands folded in my lap, listening, watching, waiting. Then Sophia rose. She tapped her glass, soaking in the silence. Tonight we celebrate hard work, she announced. People who deliver, not people who dabble, not people who have projects. Her eyes flicked toward me just long enough for everyone to catch it. The laughter this time wasn't polite. It was loud, confident, cruel. My father raised his glass in agreement. For years, I'd let moments like this pass. I'd swallowed the burn and gone home in silence. But tonight was different. Tonight, I was done playing their shadow. I pushed my chair back and stood. The scrape of wood against the floor cut through their laughter. You want proof? My voice came out, calm, steady. You've been curious about what I do, haven't you? Sophia smirked. Oh God, here we go. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. One rectangle of glass, one doorway. I swiped open my banking app and turned the screen toward the table. The number glowed under the chandelier. $5.73, 401.82. The room froze. Forks hung mid-air. Jokes curdled on lips. My cousin's grin collapsed into silence. My father leaned forward. What is this, my checking account? I said simply. Sophia barked out a laugh. Please, fake screenshots. Touch it, I offered, sliding the phone closer. Go ahead. No one moved. My uncle muttered, 5 million. In checking. Not all of it, I said. Some's elsewhere. The silence that followed was louder than their laughter had ever been. My mother's hand trembled as she set down her glass. The cake's lettering sagged under the heat of the candles. They thought I was nothing, I said softly. This is what silence built. Sophia's face tightened. So what you've been hiding from family I've been working, I corrected, from doubt. Dad's jaw clenched. If this is real, you should help. Your sister's buying a house. We could... No, I said. One word sharp as a blade. My mother flinched. Emily family shares. That's what family does. Family doesn't raid grandma's savings, I snapped. The words cut through the air like glass breaking. The chandelier hummed. My father's face drained of color. Watch your mouth. She told me herself, I pressed on. Transfers, dates, amounts. She was pressured. You called it for the good of the family. That's not family, that's theft. Gasps rippled around the table. My aunt stared at her plate. My uncle set his fork down with a clatter. Before anyone could recover, the front door opened. My lawyer stepped inside a leather folder under his arm. His calm voice sliced through the tension. Good evening. I'm here for Mr. Carter and Ms. Sophia Carter. Dad rose from his chair. This is a private dinner. The lawyer smiled politely. And I won't stay long. He laid 2 envelopes on the table, names printed in bold black letters. Formal notices regarding an elder financial abuse investigation. You'll both be contacted for statements. The room went still. No one laughed. No one whispered. Even the candles seemed to hesitate. You brought a lawyer to dinner. My mother breathed, horrified. I brought protection, I said, for Grandma. Sophia grabbed her envelope but didn't open it. She's old. She forgets. She misremembers. She doesn't, I said. She's careful. She's tired of being silenced. And now she's not alone. My father ripped his envelope open, scanning fast. His voice shook. This won't hold. It will, my lawyer replied. Evidence tends to hold. Sophia's bravado faltered. For once her smirk slipped. Her eyes darted between my parents. That alone was confirmation. I looked around the table at the faces that had waited years to see me break. Now they were the ones unraveling. You said I'd never amount to anything I told Sophia, but you were wrong. The difference is I built something. You took. That's why this ends here." No one spoke. The only sound was the soft drip of wax on porcelain. I gathered my phone, slipped it back into my purse, and straightened. My knees were steady. My vow made years ago under this very roof was finally fulfilled. I didn't come to humiliate anyone, I said quieter now. I came to stop something. And to tell the truth. The lawyer nodded, closed his folder, and stepped back toward the door. His job here was done. The rest was inevitable. I moved past the table, past their silence, past the weight of years pressing down. At the door I turned once more. "You thought I had nothing," I said. But with one swipe, I proved you wrong. Then I left them sitting in the glow of their own disbelief, the taste of their laughter gone bitter in their mouths. The fallout came faster than I expected. Within weeks, the investigation into Grandma's accounts forced Sophia and my parents to return every dollar they had taken. My father, once so proud of his spotless reputation, now spent his days in meetings with lawyers instead of golf buddies. My mother avoided the neighborhood church, afraid of whispers that followed her into the pews. And Sophia, the one who never missed a chance to boast, went quiet. Her promotion was overshadowed by scandal, her perfect image cracked for everyone to see. But the point wasn't just their downfall, it was Grandma's peace. For the first time in years, she looked lighter, her shoulders free of a burden she should never have carried. We planted tulips together in her garden that spring. She pressed dirt into the ground with her thin hands, and I watched her smile bloom wider than the flowers ever could. As for me, something shifted. I realized that the years I'd spent silent hadn't been wasted. They'd been sharpening me. My business grew, my clients multiplied, and I finally allowed myself to enjoy what I had built. No more hiding, no more swallowing my voice. I don't know if my parents or my sister will ever truly change. Maybe they won't. But that's no longer my battle. I proved what I needed to prove with one swipe of a phone, with one lawyer's folder, with one vow kept. Family is supposed to mean love, protection, and trust. But sometimes the people who share your blood are the very ones who test you the hardest. My sister's words. You'll never amount to anything once felt like a sentence. Now they're just an echo drowned out by the life I built on my own. If you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever had to prove yourself in silence, know this, your success is the loudest answer. If this story resonated with you, share your own experience in the comments and hit subscribe so you won't miss the next one.